Hello, Conversations with Ronnie Keith podcast fam. This is John, aka Big Tyme, 33.3% of the Short Desk Podcast, inviting you to join myself, Dwayne, and Ronnie Keith every Tuesday as we sit around our short desk and discuss all things in news, sports, entertainment, and a little financial advice. Check out episode 178 as it is a reboot of the show and we discuss our vacation week amongst other things. You're listening to Conversations with Ronnie Keith.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining Conversations with Ronnie Keith. I am your host, as you heard, Ronnie Keith. I want to take the time out to thank you guys so much for all of your feedback, your praise of last week's show. As you know, we do the show, me and Iris, every other week, Conversations with Ronnie Keith and Iris. And we thank you so much for all of the feedback that we have received. We right here have a fan mail from Birmingham, Alabama that says, "Great show, love the family dynamic, enjoyed finding out what you guys do for the holidays." This is another fan mail that we have here from St. Cloud stated, "Iris, you are a gem, love you on the show." This next fan mail is from, oh my God, Sacramento, California. Sacramento, California states, "Hey, Ronnie Keith and Iris, really enjoy having you guys do this show. Want to hear more about your family dynamic, and also we'll add questions to some of your episodes." All right. Well, we thank you guys so much for messaging us, fan mailing. Please continue to send fan mail and for Conversations with Ronnie Keith. Today, as always, I have a special guest on, but this one is a guest that's very near and dear to my heart. He is 1/4 of my other podcast, which is called the Theshortdesk Podcast. If you guys didn't pay attention to the ad at the beginning of this show, it is on Tuesdays. So wherever you listen to this show on, hey, follow us on Tuesdays. The Theshortdesk Podcast consists of Darrell, Dwayne, myself, Ronnie Keith, and this gentleman, this young man that I've been knowing ever since the ninth grade. We've been friends going all the way back in time. Uh, he is 1/4 of the Theshortdesk Podcast, as I stated. I also told you guys about the ad. If you listen to the ad at the beginning of this show, he is the voice that you hear, Big Timer. Um, and he is an original member of the Theshortdesk Podcast. We started this podcast. I started it back in 2021, and he has been right by my side through the ups and the downs, and the ups again, and the downs again, and the ups where we are right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, for the first time on Conversations with Ronnie Keith, John Whittaker, AKA Big Timer. John, thank you so much for coming on Conversations with Ronnie Keith. How are you doing today, my friend?
Hey now, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Um, I am flush with joy during this holiday season, I'll say. So, no, in all seriousness, no, it's been a really good December this particular year. So,
That's
thanks
good.
for asking. I do appreciate that.
That's good to hear. That is good to hear. Well, I appreciate you coming on last minute too, because I had some things change at the last minute, and so I really appreciate you for coming through clutch. Um, you are what some people would say is a quiet one on the show. They do hear you. You give out great financial advice. You chime in from time to time, but a lot of people don't know you. And so I wanted to give you this time and this platform to get to know you a little bit better. And we'll also have a series that will come out, an episode that comes out with Dwayne as well. He'll be next. So you guys can get to know him. Um, Darrell has already been on conversations with Ronnie Keith in the past, so I won't need to bring him on for an introductory of who he is. God, what episode was that? I think he was like episode 10 or something. But hey, you guys go back and check it out. But right now, I have John here with me. So, John, let's jump into. We don't have to do the whole background of who you are, but we can let people know. A lot of times on the show, John will sometimes mention his brother. And what you guys may or may not know, John and his brother are twins. So, John, how was it? And we've touched on this on that show, but again, not everybody listens to the Short Disc podcast. You guys were born in Titusville. Did you live in Titusville for most of your life, or did you move to Orlando immediately?
We moved to Orlando after being in Titusville for about 11 months.
Oh, wow.
That's what our mother told us. Yeah, so, yeah, we were born in Titusville. Love Titusville, or Tight-Assville, as we used to call it back in the day, because there's literally nothing there. But commerce has taken hold of Titusville currently. But yeah, for about 11 months, then we moved to Central Florida,
Okay.
Orlando.
Okay. So this is all you know. So you are a twin. Are you the oldest one?
That's the funny thing. Like, we don't necessarily label one as the oldest one or not, because we were born the same day, within minutes of each other. So if we want to go with who's the oldest, I'm oldest by 2 minutes.
Wow. 2 minutes. That's it. Okay.
Yeah,
All
two
right.
whole minutes.
Wow. You don't think your mom may have mixed it up and, oh no, it was the other one that was born 2 minutes early?
No, they
No.
they knew exactly who they pulled out first. It was me,
Okay.
and then my brother followed suit.
Okay. So what was that like growing up as a twin? Did you guys have like some type of connection? You're not Siamese twins, although some of your pictures from when you were kids, I mean, now I can tell the difference now. When I was first really getting to know you and I saw those pictures, I couldn't tell you two apart as little kids. Was that the consensus? And how was life growing up as a twin?
You always had a friend or a buddy. So, um, I couldn't necessarily imagine growing up with a sibling who was either older than you by a couple of years or a year, whatever the case is. But it's just a very unique um, experience, because that's the only experience I've had growing up, is having my brother with me. Seems like everywhere we go. Um, and yes, when we were younger, we probably favored more of each other back then, because most people could not tell us apart, even though we would tell them that we're fraternal twins, not identical twins. But people thought we were being facetious or deceptive, but no, we were, just based on what science told my parents. We are fraternal twins, but of course, in school or whatnot, our names would get flip flopped, or um, it would be called the other, and then of course we give the Whittaker look, as you've coined it, almost 30 years ago, and we would just say, "Hey, no, I'm the other one," or whatever the case is. But he's my best friend. We did just about everything together. Um, wore the same clothes, because that's what our parents placed us in, mostly my mom. And of course, when we got older, um, we didn't have to do that stuff anymore. So, but
Did So let me ask you this: did you guys get placed in any classes together, or you know, was it that type of party, or they made sure to made sure that you guys were not in the same classes?
Well, there's two tales in reference to that, or uh, coming up. So when we were in pre-K, I want to say up until second grade, we were together. We went to private Christian schools up until the second grade. So um, we were a match set at that point. When we finally got to public school, third grade and beyond, we were separated up until we got to fifth grade. Because I think my mother went down to the school and didn't enjoy the having to see two teachers. So fifth grade, um, I guess the principal or whomever, uh, someone in the administration, actually put us together. So we were in the same class in fifth grade. So yeah, so in elementary school, we were together all but third and fourth grade.
Oh, okay, wow. You don't hear it that often. A lot of times they make sure to separate the kids when they are twins or same grade or something like that. So
Yeah, but Patty Whittaker is very persuasive.
now, did twins run on any side of your family, on your father's side or your mother's side? Do you know?
Uh, I know on my mother's side. I don't necessarily know on my father's side. I think my dad may have said something in passing that we do have some twins over there, but for the most part, I just know it's on my mother's side.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, how was life growing up for you as a kid? Was life easy as much as you know, or looking back, was it a struggle for you, or how was that?
We were constantly, in a child's place, in blissful ignorance because, we didn't know what the adult world looked like. If anything, just like any kid, you are in a rush to grow up so you can do the things that you'd like to do. Um, I can't say that I had a rough childhood. It was pretty good. Um, but there were some bumps in the road, um, especially with my parents' divorce when I was 8.
Mm.
And after that, that was just an adjustment period where um, we were in between two households intermittently. But for the most part, we were with our mother. And but once again, we didn't necessarily want, or we got all our needs were met for certain. If there was any strife, whether it was financed or whatnot, we weren't aware of it. So I can say that based on where I am now and what could have happened, it didn't happen. We didn't become
Mhm.
statistics or anything like that. So um, we had a really good foundation as far as our education was concerned. Um, I just remember as a child, with my parents together, and then when my parents were not together, that you had to be doing something. So if you didn't have homework, you had to read. Um, they were huge on literacy and mathematics.
Mm.
Especially if my dad was in a household, he was big on mathematics and knowing your counting and multiplication, and big on reading. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was we didn't have, like, as I mentioned before. I don't want to sound like I'm being repetitive, but it wasn't a bad childhood. But once again, uh, there were some patches in there that you didn't necessarily anticipate or wanted to see, but you just had to go through. So
Yeah, because excuse me, you kind of mentioned that there, and it almost sounded like the way that you said it. It was like, well, it's just another day, right? when you said your parents divorced when you were in the fourth grade. But that does have a big impact on a child because, up until, that time period, your parents being together was all you knew. So the adjustment for you was not only not being in this house with two parents, but also going back and forth from home to home. Did that have any effect on you in school or, you know, the relationship with your brother? Was there any effect with you two? Like maybe one wanted to stay with mom and one wanted to stay with dad, or the other one wanted to go the opposite way, or was there anything like that?
I can't really remember. There might have been a time where, I just didn't necessarily want to be where my dad was staying.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily want to get into specifics.
Hmm.
There might have been a time, albeit brief, that maybe John Tay wanted to go and see my father. And, of course, with the court order where you're sort of mandated to go every weekend to go see our father. And I remember there were some weekends I just didn't want to go.
Hmm.
And John Tay would probably go instead. Um, there was a time where we didn't go there for an extended period of time due to some circumstances that occurred
Hmm.
over a particular weekend. And I remember it in like New Year's. But once
Hmm.
again, I don't necessarily want to get into specifics
Hmm.
and what occurred that particular weekend, but that kind of curbed the frequency that we would head to our father's house during that time. But
Okay.
there was no strain in the relationship between my brother and I.
Hmm.
If anything, it probably brought us closer.
Hmm.
And I think it's one of those. It's one of the integral parts as to why we're so close even now.
Hmm.
Because I've heard stories, and once again, this may be anecdotal and it may be the exception, but I do hear stories of some twins just being estranged from each other in adulthood, which is weird to
Right.
me because
Right.
I've always, Jonathan and I have always had some sort of dialogue where um, we don't necessarily talk about serious things. We
Hmm.
we normally get together just to have a jovial chat about just ignorant stuff from time to time because you don't
Hmm.
necessarily want to think because it's enough being an adult as is in
Right.
2024 and leading up to from adolescence to adulthood. We sort of lean on each other when it came to that. And
That's good.
you had mentioned something in one of your questions as far as did you have like a what was it like? Not a telepathic type of thing, but if you can tell if something's going wrong with your twin.
Right.
That's yeah.
Hmm.
So to answer that question, yeah, you can tell when something's going wrong or something's amiss, and you have to do a little bit of investigation. So yeah, we do have those types of bonds or um, non-communicative communication. To sorry to be redundant there, but we have that nonverbal communication when we know what the other one's saying in a particular moment.
Okay. So let me ask you this, and again, you don't have to get into too much specifics with it, but during that time, that your mother and your father weren't together, did you ever think, well, things are going to get different for what we're used to having in the house because now it's just mom? Or as a kid, that doesn't really cross your mind?
Yeah, they didn't register.
Okay.
I didn't know. Yeah, you just don't know about you know people's fiscal responsibilities as an adult. You just know
Hmm.
that when you enter a room, the lights are on. When you go into a pantry, there's food or the refrigerator. There's sustenance there for you to consume. But
All right.
yeah,
Okay. So, one thing, too, as you stated earlier, it was instilled in you guys to always be doing something. We know about the academic side. Now you guys kind of know that listen to the Short Disc podcast. his dad instilled in them, really big in mathematics. And now, as you know, John has his segment, Financial Corner. And so kind of know where that kind of started there for him. And then the extensive vocabulary that John will use from time to time on the show that was instilled in him at an early age as well, him and his brother. Um, what other things did you do? Because as you said, it was instilled to you had to be doing something. So hobbies, you took up doing what?
Growing up, um, I always wanted to play football growing up because my dad played football
Hmm.
at the University of Florida.
Oh wow!
And
What position did he play?
at, coming out of high school, he was a fullback.
Hmm.
But when he got to Florida, they transitioned him from fullback to defensive tackle.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So, growing up from probably age 1 to 8, my dad was my hero. He was the biggest, baddest dude that I knew because I lived with the guy
Hmm.
24/7, and he was larger than life to me. And I wanted to do some of the same things he did, which is play football. So I think I don't remember at what age, but probably relatively early, probably around 5 or 6. Probably went to my parents and said, "Hey, I want to play football." And I don't necessarily know what my dad's disposition was. He probably was excited. My mom was like, "Hell no, um, my son's not playing football. He's too young. I don't want to get hit. I don't want to get hurt," which is natural. You don't want your
Right.
baby to get hurt. So instead of football, we went into Little League baseball instead, which is
Okay.
much safer. Even though if that baseball hits you in the face, it hurts. But instead of the repetitive pounding from play after play, that was the healthier alternative. Um, Little League baseball.
Hmm. So, did you eventually get to play your lifelong dream of playing football? And when, if you did?
I did, but even before that, um, not only did I play baseball, I played basketball for about 1 or 2 seasons, and figured out pretty early that I suck because I couldn't shoot the ball worth a damn. I had a really bad shot. Like my shot was I'd even how normal basketball players when the launch point is over your head.
Yeah.
Mine was like at my face,
Oh
so I
wow.
kept on getting rejected anytime I got a shot off. The only
Wow.
thing I was good for was rebounding and playing defense. That's about it. But
Everybody has a place, man.
correct, and I was willing to do the grunt work, but when it came to that,
Hmm.
the funny thing is, if one of us was doing something, the other one got to do it.
Oh
So
wow.
I think it was the same thing with baseball and basketball, with the exception of the final season in basketball. My brother didn't participate, but usually, if one brother is doing something, the other brother needs to participate as well. So, um, but we had fun. So we played baseball probably from coach pitch. So we were probably about 7 years old at that time,
Hmm.
up until we were 14.
Oh
And then,
wow.
yeah, so it's basically up until eighth grade. Then after eighth grade, we got to high school, and that's when I was able to play football.
Okay. Who? So your mom relented once you got into high school.
It was a done deal at that point. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think she was too happy. Um, she didn't like. I don't know necessarily what her disposition was come to the football games. So I remember her coming to all the football games, and probably just thrilled that after the games I was still upright, and I had control of all my faculties. So um, yeah, she couldn't necessarily fight it at that particular point. when you're a teenager, 14, 15 years old.
Hmm. So you started playing football. Now, how did all that go for you in high school? How did you enjoy it? What what did you make of it?
I almost quit at one point.
Whoa.
Um,
When was this?
this was probably sophomore year.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it was sophomore year. I think it was sophomore year. And I think it was that one day. I think it was that one day where, remember Coach Holt, like the first practice, he just runs you to death.
Hmm.
And when I was coming up in Little League, I was used to practice maybe twice a week. I wasn't
Hmm.
used to um, going to practice every single day, uh, even though I went to practice every single day in ninth grade. Um, but for some reason, I was like, is this what every day is going to be like on the verge of death? After 2.5 hours to 3 hours in the Florida heat. And I remember on that particular day, I don't know if a monsoon had come through
Hmm.
a few days before, but it was at
Hmm.
the other practice field. It was the practice field right before you got to the actual football stadium. And I think that's where JV and I think that's where JV might have practiced.
Hmm.
And yeah, we just ran that entire practice, and I think the second day was some of the same. And so I think that Wednesday I just came home and I made some excuse that I was nauseated or something.
Hmm.
And my mom said, okay. And then I think she came home and she had a discussion with me. And she said, because I think Coach Hope was looking for me. So she had a discussion with me and essentially said, well, you started this, and I don't care what you do after this season is over,
Hmm.
but you're going to finish this season. And then you
Hmm.
can make a decision whether or not you want to continue playing uh, high school football anymore.
Hmm.
So after that, it was a done deal. I didn't necessarily enjoy um, practices in fall
Hmm.
uh, for quite some time. I never really enjoyed practice, but I enjoy playing in the games. And
That's what I was going to ask you. What was your level of fun for playing football? Like, did you really, really enjoy it, or was it because you had made a commitment to do it?
I enjoyed it because the way somebody explained it to me. I don't know if it was Coach Smiley or something like that, but it's really one of the only sports where you can legally whoop somebody's ass and not
Hmm.
go to jail for it.
Hmm.
And so, not to say that, I guess it was just one of those outlets to release any type of stress or anger or anxiety. It just gave you an opportunity just to purge for 48 minutes
Hmm.
and just have fun.
Okay. So you did that all through high school. How was high school for you? A lot of people sometimes will say it was the worst time of their life, and you hear people say it was the best time of your life. There's never really any median. Um, as far as it was okay or it wasn't okay. No, it's either they hated it or they loved it. What about you?
I don't know. High school was academically, I mean, everything went well. You know,
Hmm.
I had good grades.
Hmm.
Socially, once again, I wasn't much of a speaker. So, I wasn't necessarily great at making friends or galvanizing people to come and want to associate with me, but just people I guess, uh, organically, we just made friends somehow.
Hmm.
It wasn't something that I actively went out and sought. Um, it just happened. But as far as high school is concerned, I can't necessarily that it was bad or it was great. It was somewhere in the middle. It was like I'm here um, because the state says we have to be here, and I have to get an education, and I couldn't stay home because if I skipped school, I was probably going to get a frying pan up against my head and everything else, and whatever other projectile that was in range to do harm and provide corrective action. So, um, you know, I, you know, high school was good. I can say high school was good. I didn't have any gripes about high school,
So you
except
made
maybe
some
one teacher, but that's it.
really.
You know that one teacher, but
Wonder whatever happened to him.
I don't know. I don't really care.
So it wasn't hard for you to make friends, even though you didn't have an outgoing personality. You still was able to make friends.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm talking to him right now.
So, as in high school, you think about your life and your career, and as you said, you were playing football, you had great academics. What did you say to yourself you wanted to do next with your life after high school? What was grabbing John at that time to enter into the next phase of his life?
To be honest, I didn't necessarily have a focus after high school. I didn't have a long term um, mind frame at that
Mm-hmm.
time because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Hmm.
I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do. I mean, I had an idea what I wanted to do. I know, what's ingrained in you growing up in my household was, well, you have to go to college
Mm-hmm.
and you have to get a degree. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, then what? so,
Right.
so it was very non-specific. It was just you go to school and then you
Right.
get a degree and then these magical doors will just manifest in front of you and then all of this uh, a house will just appear and then you have your house and you have a car and
Mm-hmm.
then you have a little bit of money, but once again, I didn't
There was no
necessarily.
blueprint.
There
I
was no
mean,
blueprint.
a how-to guide, shall I say?
Like no
There was a
nothing.
blueprint.
Yeah, like no specialization as to what you should do or get a degree in. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not my parents' fault or anything like that, or my mother's fault.
Mm-hmm.
I just that was just how it was, and I assume that's how it was, for them growing up in the baby boomer.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the landscape was quite different then. So for me, I didn't necessarily have a focus as far as what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to be an accountant. It's like, well, maybe I'll go to school to be an accountant. It's like, maybe not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I should be a lawyer. I've been saying that ever since I was a little kid. I want to be a lawyer. And I'm like, that
Mm-hmm.
didn't manifest itself. So to say that I was in a rudderless ship is an understatement when it came to that post high school.
I had no idea that you wanted to be a lawyer. I never. I mean, that's what my plan was, and that's what I always wanted to do. And I never had an idea that you wanted to be one. We should have
Yeah,
discussed that. We could have, opened up a firm.
we probably could. Probably be damn good at it.
Yeah, yeah. So, what did you do after high school? What happened
I got a
besides?
scholarship to Delaware State University. Uh, Now I've never heard of Delaware State University. I knew it was in the state of Delaware, but outside of that, I didn't know anything about Delaware State University. Um, so I didn't necessarily receive a ton of offers or scholarship offers, rather, coming out of high school.
Hmm.
Because I didn't necessarily have a great senior campaign because I was nicked up for most of that year. I remember.
Okay, so you for our listeners, you received a football scholarship.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So when that happened, how did you feel? Were you still, loving the game of football? I know you had talked about, wanting to somewhat follow in your father's footsteps. Was that still the feeling, or were you, you stated you were a little nicked up your senior year? Had the love gone away, or were you very excited for this opportunity to be offered a scholarship at a school.
You know, imagery and media play a huge role in framing what you think reality is.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up as, and you know, um, all you see on national television, especially in the football realm, is major college programs. You know, the Ohio States, University of Florida's, Florida State,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, Texas, the Georgias of the world, and you think you're going to be in that echelon, and then reality sets in, and you don't reach, or you're not the prototype to even be in that echelon of college football.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess what I truly wanted was to remain in the state of Florida and be close to my family and my close friends, and um, that just it just didn't take. It, it didn't take. I think Florida A&M told me you're too short, and I think I heard the same thing from Bethune Cookman. You're too short. Um, and then I was just left with the offer from Delaware State because originally I believe that offer was going to come from the coach who was recruiting me at Morehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and then that coach, I forgot his name, but he ended up leaving Morehouse and taking the head coaching position at Delaware State, and then he sent me the offer letter to Delaware State for a 4 year college scholarship. And so when I guess the day finally came where you had to make a decision whether or not you were going to sign a letter of intent,
Mm-hmm.
um, I went ahead and signed it. My mom said, "You might as well go ahead and sign it. It's free education." So,
So you weren't really keen on, I won't say not going to college, but going out of state for college.
yeah, it was over 1,000 miles away.
Did you want to still play football?
I still wanted to play football, but I wanted to play football close to home.
Okay. Okay. So that didn't change or anything for you. It was just it was the idea of not being close to home. So did you growing up, let me ask you this. Did you not travel a lot, or was it just the comfortability of knowing that you would be near your mom and, your brother, friends, or whatever, family, more importantly? But was it that level because you hadn't been, you never really been away from your mom and things like that? So was it because you didn't really go so much out of state, or was it just you didn't want to be away from your family?
I don't know. I don't know if we traveled a lot because we didn't. The furthest I think we traveled up until I turned 17. Um, we had gone no further than the state of Georgia.
Hmm.
And then when I turned 17, we had a family reunion in Los Angeles, California. And so we went
Hmm.
to Los Angeles for the first time. So, I mean, that was an eye opener. But I don't necessarily know if I was well traveled before I went to college, if that would have helped. I'm not really certain. Um, I just want to be close to home and close to my mom and um, my brother and my other family members and friends. But I ended up taking that long ride up to Delaware State on I-95, and it was a culture shock to say the least. Heading up there.
So you not wanting to be away from home, did you express that to your mom or your family members?
No, I
Mm,
didn't know how to express that.
okay. Because I tell you, from a friend standpoint. I know I've been doing this interview with him like I don't know. Some of these details I don't know, but I'm interviewing him like I don't know him, right? That's just part of being an interview because I don't want to get here and run my gums about stuff, that I can attest to. I want John to tell his own story. But it comes as a big surprise to me to know that he felt that way before he went. Because as a good friend and close friend of John, I mean, we spent a lot of time together. Um, you
Especially
know,
that summer before I left. Yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. I had no idea that John didn't want to go. When John told me he had went up there for his visit, he didn't come back, to me saying he was unhappy. You know what I mean? One of the first things I think I asked him is, "How many girls up there?" Because that's what I was concerned about. You know, and when he told me the ratio 4 to 1, if for every one guy there's 4 girls, I said, "Oh my Lord, I need to come up there and visit." You know, but you never expressed to me.
Well, can I tell you about that visit?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah,
Let's
it
talk
was
about
because I guess you can say I wasn't like the typical recruit.
it.
Um, but we had got up there. We flew into Baltimore. One of the assistant coaches picked us up. I was there with two of our other teammates, Jamal Lewin and Julius Lee.
Hmm.
And we finally get on campus. We meet the coaching staff, and then even before I meet the coaching staff, I wasn't 100% sold on the institution or the facilities itself because when you enter Delaware State, there's they call it the Hornet Mile because it's the Delaware State Hornets, and it's this huge circle around the campus and all the facilities. And I saw the football stadium, and the football stadium was I don't even think it was the size of Colonial High School's football stadium.
Mm.
And then
Let
on
me ask
top
you
of
this. I don't.
yep,
I don't mean to cut in. Let me cut in and ask you this.
go ahead.
Was it at that time you felt that you were better than where you were going, Delaware State? Because you mentioned earlier, the what's the glitz and the glam and the media was showed in the schools and stuff, and so you weren't sold on Delaware State. You didn't even know what Delaware State really was, and
No,
so did you think at that time I'm better than this? I shouldn't be going to a AA school. Was that a thought that crossed your mind?
no, I just thought I didn't want to necessarily come here,
Okay.
because the stadium, once again, it looked like a high school stadium. There were no stadium lights.
Hmm.
Um, the weight room was probably a quarter the size of the one that we had available at Colonial High School.
Good grief.
Um, yeah, just it, just the economics behind HBCUs at the time.
Hmm.
It was just very glaring. And then on top of that, you just have I guess I was just used to access out there, and didn't necessarily have certain access to things. Whether it's of course, you didn't have a vehicle because you're just isolated
Hmm.
up there, and I think they had a little party or something for the recruits that came in, or
Hmm.
and before the party they had like a dinner. So they had a dinner. They're going over the educational programs there and the degree programs, and um, I don't remember most of it. And then after that, they said we're going to have a party. So there'll be a bunch of girls there, and this, that, and the other. And then I think I went to the assistant coach um, who brought us over from the airport. I said, just take me back to my hotel room. And he had like this befuddled look on his face, like, "Wait, is this dude serious? Like, are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, just take me back to my hotel room."
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
And I remember my response. I said, "What? You did what?" Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. So Went back to the hotel room.
And you came back the next day.
Yeah, came back the next day.
So when you came back, okay, so when you were done with all of that, were you impressed at that point to go, yeah, this is where I want to go to school?
No. I was holding out hope that another offer would come through, but it just didn't manifest itself. So that was the only offer, and I had to take that offer.
Did an idea ever come to mind to say, I'm just going to do my best here home and go to see what I can get out of UCF if I get enough aid, or go to Valencia? Was that ever an option for you, or you didn't want to do that option because you wanted to continue to play football?
No, the consensus in the household was you have a scholarship, you should take the scholarship.
Okay. And that whole time you never expressed to anyone that you weren't happy and you did not want to go, really?
No.
Wow. So you left. You went to Delaware State. Now, this is where things get a little interesting. However, as you know, on the conversations with Ronnie Keith, I got to keep you guys coming back. So this will be part 1 of a 2 to 3 part saga that we're going to tell over the next couple of weeks here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about and discuss the time that you were in Delaware State, the length that you were supposed to be there, which would, basically 4 years, and how that was cut short, why it was cut short, and what happened next with you. And we're going to come back and tell that story because I think it's important to note, again, as we're discussing this now, I knew afterwards, I didn't even know why he was there, that he wasn't happy. But when he came back, I knew that he wasn't happy because then he expressed it. And this is a guy, again, that I spent a lot of time with. We hung out, we did everything together. You know what I'm saying? And I had no idea that he was dreading going to Delaware State. And no one else did as well. And that had a big impact over the next couple of years with John being in Delaware State. So we're going to come back for part 2. I want to take the time out to thank you guys for listening to Conversations. Again, I had planned this a long time ago with John and Dwayne to come on and just, okay, maybe we'll do this in the new year. But you know what? We're going to we're going to end the new year with a nice episode, part 1 of John's story. And then when we start in the new year, we're going to do part 1 of Dwayne's story and wrap these things up with these young men. Thank you so much, John, for telling that first part. I'm really anticipating part 2. This has been Conversations with Ronnie Keith.